So we are doing the second last session of this study of the Nagarjuna's letter to a friend, King Gautamiputra. And so we have come to the verse number, we finished last week, 104, which concludes the urging the importance of having surveyed the nature of samsara, a cyclical existence caused by karma and affliction. So Nagarjuna displays the nature of samsara and the cause of samsara being karma and affliction as a justification to develop strong renunciation in order to develop an intent to seek a liberation. Because until one is able to see the nature of samsara as being untenable, it is very possible people pray to be born in higher rebirths. People pray to be born again in this world without realizing so long as one remains in the cycle of samsara, the one is bound to experience excessive karma and afflictions. And so beings who do not know the nature of higher rebirths may do very causes that may bring oneself to the very vicious cycle of existence. So having surveyed the whole nature of samsara and urged that the importance of developing the intention should be analogously such as if your cloth or head caught into fire, you will not delay extinguishing that fire. So likewise, that whole samsara is like a burning pit of fire, and who wish to create causes to be born again in this world. So having highlighted that, then verse number 5 onwards goes to emphasize the importance of striving a path that will lead to liberation, what is called nirvana, that is distinct from samsara. So there are 7 points that how to go about in gaining liberation. First is highlighting that liberation is possible. So first you have to believe in liberation. Some people don't believe in liberation. They think this life is that is the only thing they know, and they don't believe any consequences of good doing here will earn some particular better place or for some difficult place. So those who have completely shunned the possibility of any form of liberation, for them, from teaching from here onwards become a bit irrelevant. But those who have the belief in liberation, then Nagarjuna goes to spell out how that liberation can be cultivated. Through morality, wisdom, and meditation, one must achieve nirvana. So this first line highlights what is called 3 higher educations, what we call. Adhishiksha, it's called. Adhishiksha means extraordinary education, because ordinary training, discipline people have, it's not that people. So word morality is these days translated more as a self-discipline. And higher about the education of self-discipline, and education of wisdom, and a higher education of meditation. So it is through these 3. Why this is possible is that these 3 higher educations becomes a direct remedy to the 3 afflictions: desire, hatred, and ignorance. So the higher education of discipline is the remedy for desire, and a higher education of meditation is the remedy for hatred, and a higher education of wisdom is a remedy for ignorance. These 3 afflictions. So because those 3 are the causes of samsara, to undo those 3, one must embrace the practice of these 3 high educations. One must achieve nirvana. word nirvana is means absence of sorrow. So all sorrow, therefore, is here highlighted, comes from our own desire, hatred, and ignorance. Often we think our sorrow comes from someone else's action and the like. So the one who seeks liberation needs to change that, drop those wrong views, and adopt this new view. To be liberated, one needs to change one's own mind from having this affliction, instead use these educational devices, because education helps us to get rid of what we didn't know and gives us to possess the knowledge that replaces the uneducation. So instead of thinking other people or place or time or situation is cause as misery, one rather sees, because by thinking that, we become more circled in samsara than it ever took us near the exit. So by changing our mind that liberation is caused by oneself having discipline, oneself having meditation, and discipline and wisdom, then one will be able to chip away the rock of afflictions and karma and sediment by this. Then one must achieve nirvana. Nirvana means cessation of sorrow. The immaculate state of peace and power, nirvana, therefore it explains nirvana is absence of sorrow. Because when your greed and hatred and ignorance and associated afflictions are absent from your mental domain, it's just like a virus. When your mind hasn't got the virus, then there's a lot of peace. Your mind works very well. There's a lot of power. It can do quickly. When mind is very much, sort of sabotaged by these afflictions, then there is no peace but agitation, frustration, anger, and blame, and so on. There's no power to do change within oneself. One becomes completely disempowered. So, therefore, he explains what nirvana is like. So that nirvana is ageless, where there is no birth and death. Deathless. Meaning deathless usually is a person who experiences death is one who's born. So there is no birth, no aging, and therefore it's completely eternal, and free of earth, water, fire, air, sun, and moon. You can never have to talk about the weather all day. So it will totally free us from the five elements. So because they have totally transcended corporeality or physicality. Their body is no longer, their mind will not subjected to be born, will not be propelled to be born with the karma. And so nirvana, so this first verse number 105, is to implant in our mind that we have to believe in nirvana. Of course, there are many. Nirvana has two types. Nirvana, non-abiding nirvana, and nirvana nirvana with a remainder. Nirvana with remainder, or nirvana without remainder, they call it. Nirvana with the remainder is the bodhisattvas. Remainder meaning one who can attain nirvana, but have probably state of mind that is all free of these three afflictions, but nevertheless choose to come back in the world as a bodhisattva. So that's called nirvana with remainder, because one is delaying one's claiming of the nirvana, so that when one actually remains in the world. So nirvana without remainder is usually depicted by Mahayanists as the arhats and the sravakas and arhats. So that's within inter-Buddhist school they distinguish that. So having implanted the motivation to seek, believe in nirvana, and then those who wanted to set out on the journey. So from here onwards, path of seeing teaching begins. Because remember, up till now, we've been going through the first six perfections, but this is still under the chapter of the sixth chapter on the perfection of wisdom. So the wisdom, which is the third of the three higher education, is the result of the former two. The higher education meditation and higher education of discipline. So here onwards, so to gain liberation, there are 7 points. The first of the 7 points is to cultivate the 7 limbs of the path. So cultivate the 7 limbs of path. So the verse number 106 is talking about how to develop these 7 limbs. These 7 limbs are specific qualities one must have to have embarked one's feet on the path of seeing, which is the when you are reaching the meditative state. Because we are talking up till now, you have meditated on the path of accumulation, path of preparation, and then developing renunciation, doing calm body meditation, and doing the special insight meditation. So in the special insight meditation, which if you succeeded the special insight meditation, then you have these 7 limbs. Then you gain these 7 limbs. Right now, our limbs are a little bit, just small, but not sufficiently grown. We are trying to grow these 7 limbs, but they are not quite yet fully developed. So these are the 7 limbs. First is the mindfulness. So here, this mindfulness, which we are referring to, this is referring to the mindfulness of focusing one's mind. Your path of seeing is in your sight now. So mindfulness of path of insight within your sight, yeah, and therefore mindful of not forgetting the selflessness. Yeah, remembering the selflessness as the distinct flavor of reaching the height of the place where you can actually see the summit now. So like now you are actually within the sight of enlightenment, the first one, which is the not forgetting selflessness. Usually we talk about mindfulness, like today, these days, people talk mindfulness, this mindfulness. This is all mindfulness, how to make money. Mindfulness, how to perform more or whatever. This mindfulness, when we talk about 7-limb mindfulness is not forgetting selflessness. Not only philosophically, but also behaviorally. Philosophically, the understanding of emptiness and no self. And so whether you're in formal meditation or not, you see that is the cream of the teachings. Really, that is the perfection of wisdom is realizing selflessness. And behavior also practicing bodhicitta as a Mahayanist, that you always remember how to practice selflessness. And therefore, practice selflessly. So the mindfulness of the behavior and view and conduct of one within the sight of the path of seeing. Yeah, that is what I mean by mindfulness. And then the second is the wisdom. Here the wisdom is the wisdom of discrimination. Wisdom is always using discriminatory. Discrimination means that not seeing anything for what it appears as, but always examine penetratively for what it is. Discriminating wisdom means that we actually do not accept anything for its face value, but it uses reasoning, reductionist theory of what a thing is in itself, if it's not dependent on anything. So you see the dependentness of everything, or impermanence of everything, and a lack of inherent existence of things. So when you look at that, then the wisdom is the second limb, because that limb came from as an enhancement of the limb of mindfulness. Why you been mindful of selflessness so long? So that you can have this wisdom of discrimination. So that's the wisdom. And the third one is with meditation. Mindfulness, the discernment of Dharma. Third one is diligence, rather. Diligence is this kind of diligence is not ordinary diligence in various things people are eager to do. This is diligence intent to realize the virtuous attainment of the realization of selflessness, so that you are enthused by realization of selflessness. So your diligence comes from that, not from the worldly gains and so on. And the joy, the fourth one is joy. This joy comes from both the physical bliss and the mental joy. So when a person is on experiencing these 7 limbs of enlightenment on the path of seeing, within the sight of path of seeing, they actually experience physical bliss and mental joy. So even though they may look like ascetic practicing, but they're not suffering. They're not suffering. They're not sort of striving hard to suffer. They're practicing with diligence in the delightful bliss. Physically, they feel more utilized, more useful in doing what they're doing. It's not a chore for them. It's not a burden for them. It's not an obligation for them. It's not something they have fulfilling the obligation. It's a delight. As a result of that, physically they feel very blissful, mentally very, very joyful. So joy here means physical bliss and mental joy. And as a result of this, extreme agility. Extreme agility refers to the agility of the body, agility of the mind, sometimes called the pliancy, serviceability of your body. There's never this heavy body that is pulling you down or discouraging or complaining what the mind wants to do. There is no such physical kind of mentality, and your body, you have to always consult your body, you know. The body is having a big say usually, you know, not like that. Body and mind are hand in hand, you know. They're not at cross purposes. So what we mean by the extreme agility refers to the serviceability, pliancy of the body, pliancy of the mind. So these limbs are sevenfold limbs. They are all 7 within one. You know, there's not the individual quality. One limb adds the other. Each of them boosts each other. So mutually inclusive sevenfold qualities. Extreme agility refers to that untireable, untiresome body. Body doesn't exhaust. Mind doesn't get tired. The bodhicitta is so powerful. Particularly if it is the ultimate bodhicitta of selflessness. Because when you realize no self, you don't feel yourself is losing energy. There's no self to lose energy off. See? So if you realize bodhicitta, the ultimate bodhicitta, which is really what we're talking about, mindfulness and discernment, and so physical, mental agility. And so as a result of that, your meditation, which is the sixth. Sixth one is the meditation. The meditation is completely free of dullness and agitation. And mind it is not something your meditation is good when you're in the morning or at the beginning of the session and otherwise not. Even when you're outside meditation, you do normal things. You're still in that state of mentality. It is not an isolatable thing that you have to do at one place, then you become meditative. No, your meditative state is devoid of any of these 5 impediments of mind, meditation, particularly the dullness and agitation. And mind is constantly stay in that tranquility and meditative equanimity. So that's what meditation refers to. And the result of that, mind has a great limb of equanimity. So each of these 7 are limbs. Limbs mean specific attributes. Specific attributes. What do we call? For instance, the mindfulness is the limb of abiding within the sight of path of seeing. So the limb which stays mindfully in guarding its sight of path of seeing, which is emptiness of self, emptiness of self. And by remaining in that state, it does not allow to decline or degenerate any of the qualities that goes with staying within the sight of path of seeing. So it does not allow it to degenerate, or it therefore stabilizes. it stabilizes this quality. That is the what do you call the quality, the limb of mindfulness. Limb of discernment or discriminating awareness is it increases the clarity. The clarity in discerning the sight of path of seeing is enhancing. It is clarified. Furthermore, it has more like a quality is maintained. The brightness of the emptiness of self is not diminishing, but it is clarifying. It is increasing its vividness. That's the limb of increasing of the vividness. We limb that limb. Each of the lists is what we mean by limb. Limb of diligence is that it maintains the joy. So in the joyfulness, because some people feel they do a little bit very selfless things, all of a sudden they've collapsed, you know. It's not like that. Their delight is not some good at the beginning and then die in the middle, you know. That continues, maintains. The delightfulness, joyfulness is like completely incorporated with the mindfulness, with the wisdom and the delightfulness. The joy is there, the touch of the delightfulness and ability to sustain the delightful quality and joy, and it's not something you lose interest in, you know. There isn't this you know. So it is called so sometimes called limb of certainty, a limb that creates certitude that the path of seeing is within the sight. Then the limb of joy. Limb of joy is called limb of benefit. It's called limb of benefit. Is that this joy comes to physical bliss and mental joy. Yeah. So then you can see the mindfulness, discriminating awareness, and all those former qualities has now produced the result. You actually feel like as if you are in nirvana. Your mind is not obscurable. You're isolated. You're free from obscuration. Because of that, physically you feel very, very blissful, and your senses are tamed. Your mind is always joyful. So this is called the limb of benefit. Limb of benefit. You actually can experience the benefit. And the extreme agility refers to the refinement. That is called limb of immutability, because it no longer allows the defilements to relapse. So you have reached a state that is immutable or formidable. It will not relapse. So because of that, it has these various attributes. So limbs means attributes, yeah? Attributes. Any kind of oppositional factors are naturally being eradicated, and so as a result of this, the agility or fixed fitness is that it keeps those factors away, and the limb of meditation, which is the meditation is that it now deepens the quality of concentration. Because it is now relatively away from the proximity of affliction, because of that it has the ability to deepen the qualities. So limb of deepening the quality, limb of deepening the qualities. And it is like a possession. When the limb of meditation comes, you have great many deeper level of realizations that previously were not possible within your available. And so the limb of equanimity, the equanimity is the limb of absence of affliction. Limb of absence of affliction. Meaning that there is no affliction. As a result of this all six former qualities, the fact that you are able to remain equanimity is because the afflictions are no longer manifesting in your mind. So therefore, they say these seven are the limbs of enlightenment. Limbs. These are definitely on a personal path of seeing. Yeah, personal path of seeing. That's why it calls limbs of the path of seeing. 7 limbs of the path of seeing. Sometimes people think these are 7 limbs of the path, generally speaking. We would love to, but it's only when you reach the path of seeing, then you have these 7 qualities. These are stocks of virtues bringing about nirvana's attainment. Yeah, these are the 7 stocks, if you like. Stocks has a meaning of stocks of virtue means the accumulation of merit that will not decline, and so that becomes fit. Eligible causes, things that makes you eligible to achieve nirvana's attainment. So that's the first sign of attainment of nirvana, path of seeing. So now, before you reach this, have these 7 factors of enlightenment. We have calm abiding, we have special insight, but only on a kind of theoretical level, yeah. So when you reach when you have got these 7 limbs of path of enlightenment, then now you have moved into path of meditation. Now we are really in path of meditation. From here, the next verse number 107, is to highlight the calm abiding and special insight. That is not the normal calm abiding special insight for beginners practitioner. Even in the calm abiding, there is a beginner's calm abiding, intermediate practitioner's calm abiding, and experienced calm abiding practitioner, and resultant calm. Now, this is resultant. We're talking about when you really reach why it's called resultant, because you are able to experience not a theoretical, not an intellectual one, but truly meditative experience of calm abiding and special insight, and not the calm abiding before, special insight later type of thing. Here they are simultaneous, like 2 ox pulling the same cart. One of them can't come later. They must go together. You see. So when the calm abiding special insight are united, that's when you are on path of meditation. Yeah, path of meditation. Mm-hmm. So the verse number 107 therefore highlights there is no samadhi without wisdom. This samadhi refers to calm abiding. Samadhi means tingen zin in Tibetan. Tingen zin really means holding calmly in a tranquil state of mind. Holding a tranquil state of mind, and with there's no samadhi without wisdom. It doesn't mean there is no calm abiding, but there is no samadhi of calm abiding without the wisdom. So you must have the wisdom. You must have the wisdom. So that's why we were talking before, the selflessness. The mindfulness of selflessness is the wisdom. Then your meditation, whether you're watching the breath, all these things, becomes a wisdom, samadhi with wisdom. Usually we are trying to have samadhi. But even samadhi is not happening. Even we can't even find the object. we even forget the object. Yeah. Here not only the object is only a reference point, maybe not necessary now. See when you reach to this level, you don't need the object with aspect so much. Your consciously is always staying present to the nature of the mind and the emptiness of self. So it's no longer needing those sort of various steps as you are as a beginner or intermediate or even advanced calm abiding meditator or what have you. This is the resultant where you are able to do these 2 hand in hand. Likewise, there is no wisdom without samadhi. Yeah. Also, even the wisdom discerning this path of seeing, of emptiness of self, you cannot just have path of emptiness of seeing no self without having done samadhi. So without having done the calm abiding. So during this time, there's no alienation of calm abiding from special insight, no alienation of special insight from calm abiding. Yeah, this non-alienable nature of the calm abiding special insight is called unity. That's called unity. The unity of calm abiding special insight those who have both, see, those who have this unity of karma bearing, especially inside, reduces the ocean of existence to the size of an ox's hoof print. Previously the suffering was just the samsara was as deep as the ocean. It takes a long time to drain that ocean. But the moment you can unite these two together, then your suffering has become now the water in the hoof print of the ox. It will dry very quickly. The morning sun will dry it. You don't need to bring a bulldozer, or you don't need to reclaim it with so many tons of sand or earth like that. So that shows you can see the importance of karma bearing, especially inside. This is why I keep talking that without these two, you cannot drain the ocean of samsara that has been there so long. But the moment you actually can do this together, of course, first you have to have reasonable some karma bearing. Then you have to have good understanding of them, especially inside. And these two. To be able to achieve these two and a united level, one must have karma and affliction purified by the merit, by the stocks of merit we were talking about. By the stocks of merit, it says you need to have. If you don't have the stocks of merit, you don't purify them. So all the preliminary practices, all the Ngondro practices we do in Tibetan Buddhism, you can see why they're so emphasized. Because without causing some kind of a dent to the actual big ocean, you start draining some through the scooping or whatever. You cannot reduce it to a ox hoof's print size. So one has to do all the preliminaries. Even when you and I do karma bearing, we keep experiencing laziness. We hardly want to come to the cushion even. Even when we come to the cushion, we forget the instruction. We just sit there, and then all of a sudden, and then we get dull. Then we say, not today, maybe another day better. Today is such a foul day. I had such a difficult day. I have a difficult morning coming up. There's all kind of excuses, and you can't sit long enough to do anything. So usually dullness and all this sloth, all the desire, all this anger, afflictions just manifest. I'm talking about as an average practitioner. You might be exceptional. You may not know this. so I'm just trying to be one of the crowds, one of in the crowds. So that's why the preliminaries we should really understand, recognize why in Tibetan Buddhism sometimes we may say, Tibetan Buddhists don't do any karma bearing. It looks like that, But when you really go to the Tibetan Buddhist, they teach you these Ngondro practices, Ngondro preliminary practices. And once people, students have really followed the steps, they start doing those things. Even the high-sounding teachings, they're only high-sounding, but you don't get there. You can't. They're intellectually high, so that's why you have to do the preliminaries. Only when we do preliminaries, then we become emotionally and morally fit to actually do karma bearing at a quiet, peaceful, and place where our normal craving and those slowly get reduced. We really find a very good friend in us that really will make us to do. Until we have that, it's just difficult to unite karma bearing and spirit. We might not have either of them in the first place, let alone unite them. If you don't have one ox, how can you have a two ox? Let alone them pull the cart together, So that's why it is important. You can, the moment you know how to do the karma bearing, especially inside together, which we haven't really taught about this, how to do karma bearing, especially inside together. Only this year I have starting to teach a little bit about especially inside meditation and clarity meditation, just slowly introducing the idea for particularly those who have done karma bearing some Ngondro, then they can appreciate. But otherwise, we don't justify talking about high-sounding teaching on emptiness, views, and all that thing when people have done no groundwork whatsoever. There are other schools schools and teachers tradition, they fashion those things too. But it says here that you cannot develop one without the other. So they must go in hand. If you have these together, you can see the force, speed of your progress, how quickly you are draining your ocean of samsara. You will see only an hoof-print size water is now only left. So that wouldn't take very long. So that these two verses we have gone through is to inspire us to look forward to gain the sight within the sight of path of seeing, and develop these seven limbs. Develop these seven limbs, and try to learn to unite both karma and special insight together, not only as a formal meditation, but when these seven limbs are together, your mindfulness, like the mindfulness, first of the seven limbs, when the mindfulness is there, the mindfulness will stay with you to remember the selflessness, both as a philosophy as well as a conduct. As an attitude is bodhicitta, As an attitude is a bodhicitta. As a conduct is actually doing things for the benefit of others, selflessly. But philosophically, point of view, one actually is always understanding no self. So this is called view, action, and meditation. What you do is the behavior. So that is doing selfless things, whether physically, verbally, mentally. And then with you in your back, in your heart, mind, even if what you do isn't received very well, you still meditate on emptiness. This is very important. Even what you did dish out became very well received, you still meditate on emptiness. So even what you did got totally rejected, you still meditate on emptiness. This doesn't stop you from still doing what you have to do as a selfless bodhisattvic thing, It doesn't mean the bodhisattva please everybody in one go. It's not like that. It's possible that your majority are not pleased with you, only few you might benefit. Even in that case, your selflessness is not dented. That is the mindfulness. That is the mindfulness of selflessness, and with the rest of the other six. Then you can see the samadhi and the wisdom are going hand in hand, even outside the meditation. But to have adequate ability to integrate that everyday activities, you have to first develop on this formal meditations. And so that's why we are trying to do formal sessions, formal meditations. Whether you are listening teachings, or whether you are reading, or whether you are doing your practice, or whatever it is, you try to formalize that to regain our consciousness, to acquaint these seven limbs that constantly available with us. It's like when you can never go out without all the four limbs. You can't say right hand, you can stay home today. You take all the four limbs. Likewise, a bodhisattva who is within the sight of the path of seeing must always take the seven limbs as his tool. So it's talking about awareness, constant awareness, constant mindfulness, and all the integration of, and that is calm abiding and special insight. That is samadhi and wisdom together. Then you can see when something happens, they all look like illusion to you. It doesn't really cling on you. It doesn't attack you. Whatever happens, it looks like not as a big thing as people see it, because you can see the emptiness of it, and with not the emptiness, the cold emptiness, the kind and loving. Still, you try to respond in the best possible way you can do. It's not the kind of cold cop-out emptiness. Emptiness, the nihilistic kind of emptiness, is not combined with method and wisdom. And so I could stay with that verse for the rest of the evening, but let's move on to because that is such an important part. And now the third point is that how to abstain from inappropriate thoughts. Inappropriate thought or inappropriate thoughts that may give rise to the wrong views. So it says one should not contemplate. This is verse number 108. One should not contemplate what the kinsmen of the sun. One should not contemplate on what the kinsmen of the sun. Kinsmen of the sun is an epithet of Buddha. You know, Buddha is called solar race. He's called solar family. Kinsmen of the sun. Of course, everybody is kinsman of the sun. Everybody worships sun, but he's much more. There's a whole legend about this, but let's not get into that. He said that be the 14 unexpounded views, for the mind will not be pacified through them. So this is talking about that one should not indulge into these 14 topics. 14 topics. Unexpounded meaning. Even Buddha did not took liberty to explain what the answers of these 14. So some people get in when they become very intellectual about emptiness or sorrow. They ask these questions. He said these 14 views are not conducive for oneself to combine samadhi and wisdom, and therefore obstructs oneself from progressing to the path of nirvana, and it obstructs to the 7 limbs from becoming limb, and therefore not being able to combine the samadhi and wisdom. So therefore, these 14 questions people usually ask. You and I, I'm sure, ask a lot of people when they talk about philosophy and religion. They start asking some questions. Some of these questions are under these 14. And the Buddha did not answer when people ask about these 14. So what are the 14? And these 14 are whether the universe is eternal. Yeah. Whether there is thing called universe is eternal. So that's first question 1. So don't ask that question. If you do, you get into the wrong way. Or not eternal. That's the second one. so that's the second one. And third one is whether the universe is both eternal and not eternal. That's the third one. And the fourth one is whether the universe is neither eternal nor non-eternal. Yeah, no, not eternal. So those are the first 4 questions. I mean, it's usually 1, but can be complicatedly become 4. Yeah, so it's going to the 4 extremes. Yeah, yeah, and then that's the first 4 questions. Second 4 questions, there are 3 lots is 4, and plus 2. The first one is whether the universe is finite. You know. Whether this is only universe, or there are 10 or 15 or 16 or millions or whatever people. You know, when you start counting, it becomes finite, isn't it? So universe is countable or not? So don't ask such questions. People do. So second is whether the universe is infinite. So don't even say it's infinite, because you know. So that's the one is infinite, one is infinite, and one is finite. And the third question is whether the universe is both finite and infinite. Yeah. So that's. And the fourth question is whether the universe is neither infinite nor neither finite nor infinite. Yeah. So those are 4 extremes. Which is all about whether things are eternal or finite. You know, this is very. So that's the 8. Then another 4 questions. This is the enlightened one. Whether the enlightened one exists after death. So that's so don't ask that question. Don't. If somebody try to attempt to answer it, they must remember this. So, whether the Tathagata exists after death, or whether the Tathagata does not exist after death. And that's the 10th question. And the 11th question is whether the Tathagata both exist after death and do not exist after death. So that's the 11. And the 12th question is whether the Tathagata neither exists after death nor does not exist after death. So, yeah. People ask such questions. So, of course, this covers all the questions. But some people say, when did the universe begin, and so on, and they start telling how it began. That's the Big Bang or whatever, Big Bang or creation. These are the kind of unexpounded answers by the Buddha. And then the 13th question is whether the spirit or soul is identical with the body. So that's the question number 13. Or whether the spirit or soul is different from the body. Yeah. So we're talking about body and consciousness, whether they are one or whether they're separate. So as if you become a little bit philosophically enticed by emptiness and so on, but if you get into asking these 14 questions, either of the 14 questions, it will derail you from realizing emptiness, because you think your mind is amazing and can now go and survey all of these things that Buddha even didn't bother to give an answer. So that's that verse is about how to avoid asking useless questions, basically useless questions. Even if somebody gives the answer, so what? Still you are you. Still you have to do your thing anyway. Whether the universe is finite or whether it's 12 or 15 or whatever it is, whether it started at 2014 before or whatever, it becomes completely unnecessary intellectual distraction. They don't have relevance in any of the questions. So that's the urging how to get rid of the wrong views, the causes of falling into wrong intellectual kind of pursuit. Now, next one is how to therefore train the mind to have the great ability to think on things that matters, and that by thinking of it has actual practical benefit. But if you think over those questions, there's no real benefit. It's just a thing you talk about, but actually it doesn't make any difference to you every day to day. So it's not so. So it's almost like you have to believe whether the universe began or 2 or 6 or whatever. You have to it based on belief. It's got no relevance. Verse number 109 goes to explain what these useful, powerful, beneficial thoughts are that one needs to train to help oneself to progress onto the path of gaining the path, staying on the path of meditation. Remember, path of meditation. If you have calm abiding and special insight intellectually, but if you're surveying that kind of wrong 14 questions, then it will delay your realization, because these are non-productive thoughts and inquiries. But instead, one should go on to this. Verse 109, it says the Muni. It should be the Muni, not Sunni, not the Sunni Muslims. It's the Muni Buddha. The Muni declared that from ignorance arises karma, from that consciousness, and from that a name and form, from that arise 6 sense faculties, and from that contact. So here, these verses, 3 verses, verse number 109, 10, and 11, these 3 verses list out what are the useful things one should do in meditation. For instance, it says if there is ignorance, where there is, so it is due to ignorance of self being not eternal, not truly existing, not independent, not permanently existing, ignorance of that makes us to grasp to self as truly existing. So it is from that ignorance they develop grasping to the idea of I or self. Yeah, I or self. So, and because of the grasping to the ego as a self, as true, and so forth, then one is subject to all kinds of activities that are propelled by this grasping to the ego, and therefore it creates when it says if ignorance arises karma, so then it creates actions. From this ignorance, predisposition, which means mental formation, second limb of the 12 links. These 3 verses list all the 12 links, basically. First link is the link of ignorance, and second link is link of mental formation, what we call sanskara, sometimes translated as predispositions. So when the mind is ignorant, it is not aware that it's ignorant. So it misapprehend body and a name and things like that as self. Not only self, but permanent self, independently existing self, as truly existing self, and so on. So because of that, it perpetuates actions. It creates karma, the mental formation. Because mental formation are formations of mental formation, physical mental formation, verbal mental formation. Mental formation is subtlemost. We don't even know we are creating karma when sitting there. We think somebody hurled a stone, we think that he created karma. But we don't realize if we are angry at someone, we don't realize we are creating karma. So mental formation due to grasping to self, we create just as many karma, mental formation. So due to grasping to the ego, it creates this karma. Yeah, it creates the action. Basically, mental formation is mental action. The thoughts, we're talking about the thoughts. Sanskara means really mental formation. Mind formulates. Like depression is mental formulation. It's totally badly made up in the bad thoughts. If you have joy, it's also mental formation, you know. So basically what the mind creates within itself, due to clinging to self. Oh, nobody loves me. I don't have this. I don't have this. When you start thinking like it, therefore, it's like whipping up the cream. And then it becomes very thick. and one doesn't now realize how one actually whipped it up. So that's a mental formation. Mental formation. And due to clinging to the self, mental formation. From mental formation, the consciousness. Our whole awareness become unconscious. Meaning the consciousness become completely smeared with that whipped cream, basically. And so you become very imperceptive, very non-cognitive, and wrong views. So that's why when it says, from ignorance arise karma, mental formation, from mental formation arise consciousness. Consciousness meaning that your awareness, even though whatever awareness is regarding, say awareness of saying, somebody didn't treat you fairly, thinking like that, I wasn't treated fairly. And that is a kind of a consciousness in which, and that actually came from the particular mentality that one gave rise to, one sets of reason one gave rise to, and that came from ignorance, grasping to I as true and real and important. So you can see how these. So when you talk about these things, it's not about talking whether the universe began or not. We're talking about how we create our reality. So it's become useful, and we know how to undo it. We know how to step back, and we know how to change our mental formation. So when you meditate in loving kindness, you're trying to develop the mental formation of hatred or ill will to be replaced by love and kindness. So you can see how it is a mental training. We call mental training. From consciousness, name and form are produced. Yeah, so name and form means that the form is the body, and the name is the consciousness.
the notion of I. This is when we say name and form. The name is the consciousness fifth aggregate. Rest of the four are called form. So name and form, consciousness and other four aggregates. That means your whole five aggregates become now engaged. Previously it's just in the head. Now whole five aggregates are completely mashed into this problem. In terms of that, so because of that, it says you become name and form. And from the name and form arises six sense faculties. So then, that means that now it's not just into your mental consciousness, it has gone into all your five senses. Now you see all the sense organs are now completely influenced by the information. The mental formation has now, it's like a virus. Now it's spread all over your body. It's not just in the toe, or it's not just in the liver, or it's not just in the ear. It's now spread everywhere. Affliction is called. So all the senses are completely inundated, sense faculties. When we meditate, we are trying to undo these things. We're trying to we're trying to isolate this going into here, into the thoughts, into the feeling. We try to meditate in deity or whatever. You try to completely unbecome, try to undo all of these links. And how do you know that your sense faculties are influenced by name and form? Because sense faculties are basically five aggregates, They are the doors, or the six doors of the five aggregates, isn't it? So sense faculty means six sense doors. And from that arises contact, From that arises eyes develop contact with the form, ears could develop contact with the sound, and so each of the sense, sources of sense organ, sixth sense organ connects with the sixth sense objects, so that's called contact. And a contact. And so how even people who feel lonely or they're actually developing contact. It's not that they have no one to contact. They're contacting bad thoughts, and they feel lonely. So it's actually bad thought. It's contacting these things. And so people say, I have no contact, but they have lots of contact. That's the problem. This contact, they got the wrong contact. They can't contact the Buddha. They can't contact the Dharma. They can't contact Triple Gem. They can't contact Bodhicitta or whatever. They can contact fear or worry or of that. Then you can see the person is contacting. When they're contacting, from contact arise feelings. Yeah. Even when you feel excited, people think, I should go such and such place. I should join that car. I should do that course. I should travel over there. All of a sudden, person wants to do something completely. And so then they feel very excited as it is. So if they are contacting something pleasant, for a little while they become very excitable. And then they don't realize the feeling that they have is very, very impermanent. They think it's all the excitement and joy will come from the object. They don't realize their contacting to it has actually manufactured the whole thing. So this is dependent arising, This is meditating dependent arising. You can sometimes do that. You sit there, which of the 12 things, 12 faculties, 12 links are operative on certain things. If you're feeling a little bit hurt or unloved or very loved or whatever, you just, what did you think? And as a result of that, because of that thought contact, now you're having positive feelings or unpleasant feelings. So from contact arises feelings. So feelings is not because somebody did to us. We contacted them. That's the whole thing. We gave our number. That's the problem. We said, who are you? Please come in, or whatever, We contacted them. It's if you didn't contact, it's okay. But we contacted it. It's not because somebody knocked the door. We opened the door. That's the problem. Sometimes if you're really not so sure whether it's safe to open the door, somebody knocking, just don't open it. They contacted you, but you didn't. It's good. Just because they contacted you doesn't mean you have to contact. Means you hoping something. Oh yes, there's somebody who wants me. What have I got? Straight away grasping of self, mental formation jumps, consciousness jumps, name and form. All the sense faculties become excited. So all those links we were talking about become all involved. It couldn't restrain. So from contact, it says, from contact arise feeling, and then from the base on the feeling comes craving. If you like the contact, then you are craving that. Like people miss something because they're craving that. It's not that they miss. They want it. That's the problem. Of course, they're not there. Probably you wouldn't see what you have got anyway, so you're only missing what you don't have. If you have, you wouldn't see it, so what's the point of missing it? You're a misser anyway. You're a misser of everything, so if you have it, you don't like it, you tell them to go away, And then when you don't have it, you want them in your life. So what are we talking about here? It's a craving, really. It's craving. It's not their presence is going to cause our happiness last long, or it's not that it looks like their absence is making us miserable, but because we are thinking melancholically, poor me, I don't have my mom with me, type of thing, then we feel sad. So you can see that contact is the very key to what kind of feeling it gives rise to. Sometimes, of course, you can, instead of giving rise to the feeling of attention, you feel gratitude. You had your love, kindness of your mother, and she now passed away or something. If you start rejoicing all the things she gave you, then the feeling becomes really a little bit more positive. It becomes more like right side of the feeling. You can straight away feel good and not feel sad or lonely. You don't crave for a mother anymore. You just had a mother. And now you have become it. Now you have to become her rather than miss her. So, but when we don't have the ability to do that, we crave that. And from craving arises grasping. Yeah? So then when you cannot enjoy or appreciate anything but just that. People who miss something, they couldn't appreciate anything else, but they just keep like a hungry ghost, really, basically become a hungry ghost. We were talking a hungry ghost the other day. One keep craving something and grasping at something that is not even edible, not even good for them. They want just that, like an addiction. They don't realize how much it has ruined their life or health. They still want just that. And so these are the good thing to think about. This is what Nagarjuna is saying. Instead of asking useless philosophical questions, ask practical, meaningful, useful, beneficial thoughts. The 12 links, 12 links. That's what the wheel of life is one of the very important Buddhist kind of art that often is called visual dharma. Visual dharma, sending this wheel of life, give a good gift to people, and what this means. And it really opens people's mind, Picture is very useful. And from that grasping arises existence, That grasping causes the existence. So the person becomes that grasping. So from their grasping, it creates the reality. And that existence, which is the existence, then becomes birth. Then it gives rise to it, So when we talk about birth, it shouldn't be thought about it literally as a physical birth. But birth, this has two meanings. One is the physical birth, another is birth of a problem. Then it gave a birth, just because you have created all the preceding causes. So there is birth, No birth happens without all the necessary causes and conditions are present, So there is a reality. And where there is birth, there arises grief. First thing the baby does is cry. And almost, you can only know the grief, how much grief is a tantamount. Grief is grief is just kind of necessary outcome of birth. And then sickness, yeah. Straight away, when a baby is born, straight away he's crying. And straight away, the nurses and doctors straight away weigh them, measure them, look them, open their mouth, check whether anything's right or wrong. And they're not wrong. Yeah, something is always not right. Their toes in the wrong place. There's someone not quite well developed, well shaped, and they have to do this. They have to put in the machine. They will do this to make it reasonable shape into the existence. Straight away, yeah. Under that medication. He has to under that condition. He can't have this. Continue. History of medical history of everyone tells how much life is full of sickness. Some people's life is very blessed, maybe not as, not many health problems. It's very good, blessed. But most people have almost, so many medical conditions. From the day someone is born. So from birth, necessary grief and sickness and aging. If somebody doesn't die young, they will aging. Aging after 45. And then destitution. People never think they have enough. It's always then because the craving. Destitution is felt by one who is grasping to self. One who doesn't have grasping to self, like bird and animals, I don't think they don't talk to each other. I'm living below the poverty line. What about you? I saw 2 pelicans this morning. Usually you don't see that in a little in the water there. I saw these 2 pelicans, and they're just looking somewhere to eat. They must come from a place where they feel very destitute. They're looking for somewhere. It's just very, very nothing there in that water, but they really look. Maybe not so destitution, but at least they know they have to come there to get something they didn't have over there. I was wondering what made them to come there, Mm-hmm. So destitution is such a caused by grasping to self caused destitution, not because of lack of. Grasping to ego makes destitution. And fear of death, and of course fear of death, and so on. A huge mass of suffering, all of those mentioned. We were talking about all the sufferings of hell, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, demigods. All of these are because of the failure to realize the first link, the link of ignorance, and the mental formation, and consciousness, name and form, sense organs, sense faculties, and contact, and feelings, and craving, and grasping, and then becoming, and birth, and aging, and death. All the 12 links. Now, you don't think of these just in terms of 2 or 3 lifetimes, as some traditional teaching would talk about. Think of even in small incidents. All of these 12 factors are there. You'll find that. This interdependent origination, and how everything is dependent origination. But the moment you see that interdependentness of things, it straight away cancels out independent self, independent problem, or independent solution, whatever it is. You don't see that. So that really much removes the wrong views. And the interdependent origination is the most profound, most profound. This is the most unique teaching of Buddha, Otherwise, don't do this, don't do this, these things every spiritual tradition teaches. The most profound and cherished treasure of the victor's speech, that's why Nagarjuna wrote this called Praise to the Interdependent Origination. And he beautifully, poetically writes his eulogy to the interdependent origination as the jewel that's spewed from the mouth of the Buddha. So it says the treasure of the victor's speech. The treasure of the victor's speech is the interdependent origination. Because when not only Buddha taught things that were interdependent, but people who understand it have the gem. Buddha spew the gem, but who has got it? Who understand? How do you know you have the gem? Next time, whenever something happens, you can see how much it helps you, how profound it is, how beneficial it is, how practical it is for you to employ. When you use that analytically, then you wouldn't blame you wouldn't blame some other person as some independent cause of problem. There's no cause or no problem that is independent, that is permanent, that is truly existing. The moment you understand interdependence, whatever is interdependent is not independent. Whatever is interdependent is not permanent, yeah, and therefore not unitarily existing. And these therefore help you to not develop aversion, anger to someone thinking it's his fault. It straight away prevents you from developing the wrong view. No mental formation of anger is allowed because you have the right view. When you have the right view, it doesn't allow the mental formation of anger or blame or whatever. So it prevents the mental. Why it's so profound? Why is cherished treasure? When the more you use it, that much you become like Nagarjuna, who feels totally indebted to the Buddha's speech. So his eulogy to the interdependent origination was basically a psalm to the Buddha. It's like a praise to the Buddha. But he prays to the notion of interdependent origination coming from the wisdom of the Buddha. Then he speaks, he intersperses praise to the Buddha occasionally, but mostly what came out from Buddha's mouth. So that's why those who comprehend these, this is what Nagarjuna is talking, those who comprehend these, you will cherish this treasure forever. It's not that you do on Tuesdays and not on Wednesdays. It's not that you do study and not do it. It's not like that. Once you got the recipe of life, you will employ this understanding in every life and then unpack, deframe the problems. You can basically reverse the 12 links. So you can see when the ignorance is not allowed to perpetuate. When you are not ignorant, it is not unitarily existing, not permanent, not independently caused by one. There is no one that is cause of everything. Remember that. But often we have the wrong view. One is the cause of everything. We all go out, what is that one cause we can all blame, and then we are all not responsible. Whole world is just geared to what is that one cause that made that happen. It doesn't give into context of interdependence. So many factors. There are many, many factors, What cause anything, whatever happens. It's got multitude. And usually it goes to the self-grasping. And that self-grasping is not a problem of other people. So that self-grasping is a problem of everyone. So whoever is able to think like that, straight away start dealing with that. Start to deform this mental formation. Start to deframe some of the mental formations. Yeah, when you undo the mental formation with the mind, less ignorance, the mental formation is not as cloggy or not as heavy or dense as they were before. You can see light up the mental formation. You can see the light up. You can light up your mind, and when the mental formation is very thick, you cannot light up. When the mental formation is light up, meaning ignorance reduced, due to kindness, due to compassion, due to altruism, due to bodhicitta. Remember that. This is what we're talking about, bodhicitta. This is union of calm, abiding, special, and meditation. Special insight meditation happening as you speak. And so you can see where there's less ignorance, there's not the same mental formation. When there's not the same mental formation, the consciousness is more conscious. It's not unconscious. Now it is truly conscious. That is not truly existing. Not independently existing. Not caused by them or he or she. No such useless way of solving problems. You see? So the mental formation causes when there is no consciousness that is affected by that, then there is a name and form. Your five aggregates now are rewired. Your five aggregate, particularly name, the name is the consciousness. Form is the four other aggregates. They all are more aware that I'm not either of these five. Let alone you own them, And then the senses. The senses are now no longer densely fixed in seeing what I saw with my own eyes. I heard my best friend tell me. People usually believe totally what they heard or what they saw. They don't realize how deluded their mental mind and their friends' ideas are due to their own mental formations. They don't see the emptiness of it. They see there's some solid, truly existing out there to pinpoint as if they can solve all the problems by looking at that. Now one will not do that because the mental formations is light and the consciousness is not so dense, and as a result the five senses are now aware. And when the five senses are aware, then it will not be contacting. It will maybe not be contacting the objects or phenomena as one previously. There's no contact, and how could you develop feelings? when you have no feelings, how could you have craving? And when there's no craving, how could you have grasping? When there's no grasping, how could you have becoming and the birth? And then how could you have aging and death? And in relation to that. So that's the reason that each and every one of us could never afford not to think about these dependent originations. And then when you're applying that, it says here that whoever is able to see this perfectly sees the Buddha. Then you don't have to believe in Buddha. Because what's the point in believing Buddha if you don't remember dependent origination? And you're saying Buddha was born like say 400 BC or something. You believe in that? He was Indian. He got enlightened. That's a historical fact. That's not the belief. That's just the historians can do that too. The belief in this is his teachings. Constantly teaches us, and we can see the Buddha in everybody. Basically, we can do the Buddha thing, You can practice kindness without any sense of fatiguing feeling. Your compassion is now with wisdom, discerning dependent origination. If you practice tolerance to somebody, you don't feel as if they owe something to you. You feel my tolerance is interdependently originated. And so, therefore, whatever you do, of course, it's good that you pull the right thing. But good mental formation allows you to do that. But at the same time, there's no clinging to it as mine. I did this. There's no clinging because you have the right view, you see. And this is what it says here. Supreme, whoever is able to see this perfectly sees the Buddha. Yeah. Supreme knower of reality, So, instead of looking for this kind of esoteric experience of seeing Buddha and remembering past lives and all that sort of stuff, what's the benefit of remembering past life if you didn't realize dependent origination? You see what I mean? It's no benefit particularly if you really didn't like your past life, you have a lot of additional problems. So you first have difficulty accepting this life and moving, and then on top of that you have the burden of past life. Oh, then you realize this is the exact result of the past life. That's right. So you did this, you did this. So you have two people to blame now. People. So there's lots of people have mystified Buddhism, that if you did this, you can remember past, or read people's mind, or levitate, all that sort of stuff. If you really understand dependent origination, you can see how profound it is. You have to experience it. You've got to first intellectually understand these 12. You've got to really study it in your own time, not just what you're hearing from me. Just look at some of the important teachings and study them carefully, and then use it to elucidate your life, your situations, and then try to bring medicine. Apply that as a medicine that can heal the wrong views, the hurts, the pains, the despairs, the blamings, and then anger, and so all the, because we're talking about here, Nagarjuna is taught these so that we actually experience, this is what we call, this is path of meditation we're talking about. We already talk about path of seeing. If you have the 7 limbs up your sleeves, you are already in now path of meditation. Actual meditation is only after you have the path of seeing. So that's, up till then, is a trainee, intermediate practitioners trying to get to that level. Once you get that, then you are in a meditation of the Buddha. Then you are truly Dhyana Buddha. You are truly Samadhi, Buddhas in that Samadhi. Immovable, it's called. Unshakable, it's called. It's called diamond-like. It's called like ocean-like. It's like a mountain-like, because they are able to stay cognitive of the dependent origination of all things and lack of inherent existence of self and the other on the ultimate level. But majority beings don't know this, and then they are struggling. Therefore, you have incessant compassion towards beings who don't understand this dependent origination. No matter what they do, you don't have any kind of discrimination against some or towards some. You can see them all as children of yours. That's what the Buddha's, one who's in this state of mind sees the Buddha, it says that. One who realizes this sees the Buddha, and then looks through the eyes of the Buddha, and feels through the heart of the Buddha, because you are in that path of meditation. This is path of meditation. Buddhas are always in meditation. When Shakyamuni Buddha sat under the tree, he was just showing how to train in the path of meditation for beginners to become intermediate to become advanced, and then advanced to become realizers of the truth. The realizers of truth is those who realize the path of seeing. And after that is path of meditation. For the rest of the 7 stages, first 7 bhumis are continuously path of meditation. Some would even argue until 10th bhumi. You will be always, because after that you only want, what is left is path of normal learning. But in the meantime, one needs to stay in that path of meditation. So, what Nagarjuna highlighted us here is if you realize this path of these dependent originations, then you will be able to move into the next one, which is all the eightfold path. Now we're coming to eightfold path. The eightfold path is the verse number 113 rather. Then you have right view. It says right view. Usually we talk about right view and those eightfold path as something to do with Buddhism, eightfold path of Buddhism. But actually, people don't have all the eightfold path up their qualities until they reach this path of meditation. So this is very important, because people always expect of each other to be, just because you believe in Buddhism, you took refuge, that everybody should be acting like those on the path of meditation. They can't, because they just have heaps of karma and heaps of things to undo. So if, just in case you do witness sentient beings, fellow practitioners, languishing less than your expectation, you can understand. In Tibetan Buddhism, where the teaching is very, very clear, they don't confuse this Eightfold Path with some kind of elementary Buddhism, Eightfold. The idea of Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Paths, is often given as elementary introduction to Buddhist theory, but actually, in real practice, Eightfold Path is the domain of those who have reached path of seeing and continuously abiding in the path of meditation. And so that's why this verse number 113 captures the status of that. He says here, right view. The right view is the mind that which stays constantly investigating on the nature of emptiness, of self as well as phenomena. Constantly, there's no lapse in that, no pausing in that. There is no non-stop. It's called uninterruptedly. Like the lamp which has a fuel is constantly burning. There's no interruption. Likewise, the right view in which you stay lit is constant because you're in path of meditation. Path of meditation to ensure the light is continuously shining. The light of the right view. If you sleep a moment forgetting the emptiness of self and emptiness of phenomena and emptiness of activities, lack of inherent existence of activities, lack of inherent existence of self and others, that's where we are not in path of meditation. We just intellectually know path of meditation or know self theoretically, but actually we have no. Those who are on the path of meditation remains continuously in the right view. Eightfold path, that's called. That is one of the things that qualifies them to be in the path of meditation. And then when you say right, of course, this verse actually lists the things not quite in the traditional order, but that's not the problem. Right livelihood, for instance, takes. Then the person who right livelihood means that the person who is in a path of meditation, he totally depends on frugal alms, never seeking this delicacy as opposed to that delicacy, looking through a menu, I want this, I don't want this, oh, you don't have that. No such thing. There's complete contentment, whatever he gets, whatever don't get. Livelihood is contentment, right? Livelihood is a contentment we're talking about. There is no craving, remember? How could you say, I want this, I don't want this, please take this back? Right effort, yeah. The effort of the practitioner is constantly to maintain the realization of no self and behaving selflessly and emotionally, altruistically maintaining that. Yeah, so view, action, and meditation all together here. And the right mindfulness. The right mindfulness guarding the mind to not to forget the virtue of selflessness and interdependent origination. Not to do some mindfully doing something to impress other people so that you outperform other people, you become best among other people. That's not mindfulness, that's competition. This is the mindfulness that maintains altruism, mindfulness that maintains the virtue of altruism and the merit of emptiness. Mindfulness. Right meditation, of course. Right meditation is unity of compassion and wisdom together, or calm abiding and wisdom, or clarity and emptiness, whatever, from whichever way you can look at it. Always in that meditation. And right speech is, from the point of view of social interaction with the social situations, you're always kind and appropriate, harmonious, positive language. Even things are really, really awful, but you don't remark that. You actually try to say something to change that by your right speech. That is right speech. It's not because lack of bad things to talk. It's because you got abundant things to talk that's good, that can right the wrong. That is right speech. And right action, of course. And there is nothing that is inappropriate. Bodhisattva dwelling on the path of meditation will do, that whatever Buddha does, it's always most appropriate thing. There's no anything, it wasn't the second best he did. So that is right action. And right thought, always bodhicitta, the intent bent to think of the welfare of others. And so never selfish, of course. These are the Eightfold Path. Meditate on them in order to attain peace. So that means that a person on the path of meditation, remember. So for them, these 8 becomes subsumed into 3 higher education that we started the evening talking about. When it's a higher education of self-discipline, consists of right action, right speech, primarily these 2, and then and right livelihood goes with that, and then higher education meditation is right meditation and right mindfulness, and higher education of wisdom is right view and right attitude, right thought, and right effort goes with all the 3. So that means the view is your intellectual view. The view is wisdom. Therefore, view is the wisdom. The action is the compassion. Yeah, kind speech, whatever. So what is behavior is selfless and altruistic, doing whatever is paramita, whatever form of paramita would have you. So action is that, and one is continuously in the meditative, mindful state to ensure the delivery of the right action. Not only delivery of right action to impress other people, but ensure that one is always incorporating with the right view of emptiness and interdependent relation. So you can now see how carefully the Eightfold Path could be subsumed. Eightfold Path is very convenient to introduce Buddhism from this point of view, but ideally it is the domain of those in the path of meditation. We could aspire to that. I suppose we can aspire to that, and sometimes, some days we do fair few hours. We were kind. We said the right thing. We didn't do anything to offend others. We were also meditating on the dependent origination of it, and so on. You know. So you can see occasionally we could peep into that. What is the domain? What is the state of the mind of the enlightened ones? You could have preview. Sometimes when your mind is good, when your thoughts are good, you can see the Eightfold Path of meditation. Eightfold means these are within one. It's just like one wheel. One wheel has the spokes, the hubs, the rims, all holding each other. None of these parts of the wheel is the wheel, So that's a very beautiful way of portraying the interdependent origination. Even your execution of the right action, right speech, or right effort, or whatever you did, but if it lacks the wisdom discerning emptiness, people do a lot of right effort, and then they have resentment. They did this. You see? The right action minus right meditation minus right view. And so then fatigues them burnout. They call it burnout. Burnout happens because one is attached to what one did, as if what I did. One doesn't see that as interdependently originated. You can see how useful this whole idea of interdependent origination is. Now, interdependent origination, the links of interdependent origination are 2. One is samsaric interdependent origination, one is nirvanic. If you reverse it, become nirvanic. That's why when you apply this Eightfold Path, firstly, you have right view instead of ignorance. Yeah? So with the right view, there's no ignorance. Because of no ignorance, now the mental formation is right thought. Yeah? Mental formation is right thought, the altruism. Yeah? And the consciousness becomes now bodhicitta. The whole idea of altruism becomes your consciousness. Your whole consciousness is filled with the bodhicitic, altruistic kind of reality. The whole resonating, the bodhicitic kind of consciousness. And because of that, the name and form, five aggregates are completely fused by the bodhicitic, by the bodhicitta and all the five aggregates. And then the six sense organs, even looking with a lot of kindness, with the look, listening with a lot of kindness. So therefore, all the sense organs are blessed, are tamed, are pacified. You can see what we're talking about. There's no mental formation of ignorant piloted. There's no ignorant pilot. There's only right view piloted mental formation of bodhicitta. Through that, then what you do, which is the mental formation. Formation means physical mental formation, mental formation, or verbal mental formation. Whatever you do becomes the act. Whatever you output as a deeds or speech becomes the nirvanic. Nirvanic it transmits happiness. It transmits joy and inspiration. You can see how nirvanic it is, how absent it is, that of samsara. And so therefore, the mental formation, the consciousness, the five aggregates, name and form, and sense organs, and the contact. And the contact made by a person in that state is not desire or not hate, not judgment, not ill will motivated. There's altruism, the right thought. The right thought and right view are the two. Right thought and right view are the pilot of whatever contact it makes. Yeah, whatever it tries to see, do things, contact. Because the thought is positive, therefore feeling that it gets from contact is always positive. Bodhisattva can never be angered by someone doing even the atrocious thing. Because that's the contact. Bodhisattva's contact is like that. He's not contacting vulnerably. He's not contacting offendably. He's contacting with bodhicitta, with right thought. Yeah? And then, of course, the feeling is always appropriate. There's no feeling, you misuse or wrongly use. But even response you get maybe not appropriate. The Bodhisattva practice tolerance if somebody hits them or somebody abuses them, because they have no craving, they have no resentment, they have kindness. So therefore, the feeling is appropriate. They look like harm, look like abuse. But to Bodhisattva, they don't feature in his mental, he doesn't have this vocabulary, So for him, it's a cause of liberation. So tolerance. Tolerance becomes appropriate. It's not a desperate act, Tolerance is not a desperate act. It is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of abundance, abundance. That is because your contact is not craving-ridden, but rather bodhicitta motivated. So the feeling is tolerance, acceptance, meditating on the emptiness of self. And there will be no craving, no grasping. Even praise, he doesn't grasp. Even blame, he doesn't grasp. No grasping to anything, no grasping, and no becoming, and then no birth, no old age, no sickness. There's no related suffering at all, no grief about that, no, none of that. So you can see how this Eightfold Path becomes instrumental in instigating the actual practice of path of meditation. in every day. You could be just interacting quite ordinary worldly activities, but your mind could be really in that state. That's when you are combining samadhi and wisdom together. Yeah? Samadhi and wisdom, the view and meditation. View is the wisdom, meditation is samadhi. And then together with that, the discipline. The discipline is the conduct that you actually share or display outwardly for the benefit of other sentient beings. So we'll conclude there for tonight. It's a good place to stop.